Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today I would like to have, hopefully, a chill discussion on Super Mario Galaxy 2 Remastered, which we think might come out next month for Mario's 40th anniversary and would be announced early on in the month at a Mario 40th anniversary Nintendo Direct. Now, this is technically a rumor alongside some theories as well. We've actually been thinking for a long time that Mario Galaxy 2 should come eventually. We go back to Mario's 35th anniversary. In that Mario Anniversary Direct, which happened on September 3rd, they announced Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which was rumored all throughout the year. It was the big thing we were all hoping for, and the three games inside that collection were Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy, all slightly enhanced, slightly reworked for Switch. But the one game that everyone was sort of wondering about was Galaxy 2. Where is Mario Galaxy 2? Even in the Mario Anniversary Direct, they kind of go through the history of Mario, but they omit Mario Galaxy 2. We found it to be a very strange thing. Super Mario Galaxy 2 was arguably one of the best sequels ever. It was following up one of the most incredible games Nintendo's ever made in Mario Galaxy, and many people think Mario Galaxy 2 is a better game, and I might be inclined to agree. It's very close. They're both fantastic. And so it was very strange to see Nintendo just completely ignore Super Mario Galaxy 2 for Mario's 35th anniversary. But there's been a thought. Maybe the reason why Nintendo completely omitted Mario Galaxy 2 back from Mario's 35th anniversary was because they had a plan that might align for Mario's 40th anniversary. And as we've seen over the generations, Nintendo every 5 years has upped the ante when it comes to their anniversary events, and this time around, it makes sense to go bigger than ever before. This is the launch year for Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo has now seen that when a Mario movie is coming out, it will boost Mario sales across the board. But this time the anniversary is coming in the launch year of Switch 2, and the Mario movie is coming out soon after. So there's a really great opportunity here to take advantage of both situations and just allow all the cross-promotion to greatly improve sales and just overall brand, even more so than before. And we also saw a few months back that Universal, the official Universal page, had listed the Mario movie as Super Mario World, the same name as Super Mario World for Super Nintendo that came out back in 1990 in Japan, which would also mean it would be the 35th anniversary for that game, the introduction to Yoshi. And Yoshi, we know, is playing a significant role in the upcoming Mario movie because Yoshi was teased at the end of the prior movie. And so if Nintendo's been saving Mario Galaxy 2, which also has Yoshi playing a very significant role, all the stars, pun intended there, could be aligning. And now we have this rumor from Special Nick of the Xbox Era podcast, who has been known to have inside connections, has gotten things correct, and knew a lot about the Switch 2 launch bundle and timing and all that. He has said that he's heard that there's going to be a remaster for Mario Galaxy 2. And we've also heard from a few different places that there's going to be some sort of celebration for Mario's 40th anniversary, which really should come as no big surprise. And we've talked about this already. It makes so much sense. Right now, we don't know about Nintendo's September game. Usually Nintendo has some sort of substantial release in September, and this is the launch year for Nintendo Switch 2. You would think now more than ever they'd want to be more consistent with more heavy hitters than ever before. At least more so than usual, and in this month of August, we are getting Dragon Drive, a $20 eShop title that's a very small budget game, and a Switch 2 edition of Kirby the Forgotten Land, plus Star-Crossed World. Not a completely abysmal lineup, and so this month, in comparison to other months we've seen from Nintendo, this is kind of a smaller, lackluster one. And it's not to say that they can't have months like that throughout the year, they can, but to think that Nintendo would skip September and have nothing after they've had arguably kind of a weaker month in the launch year Switch 2, I don't really think that makes sense. I think what does make sense is what everything has been sort of suggesting, the rumors, the history, even some recent things we've discovered about Nintendo upping the overall advertisement regarding Mario with My Mario, clothing lines, somewhat similar to 2020 when they went to Mario 35th anniversary celebration. It makes sense to think that they're actually saving a Mario anniversary game announcement for September, announcing it early in the month, and it coming out a couple weeks later, pretty much exactly how it worked for Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Except this time, that game might just be Super Mario Galaxy 2 Remastered. And what's interesting about this, if it is indeed just this one game, which we're not entirely sure about, right? It's a rumor, but it does seem to make a lot of sense. If it's just one game, then they can't release just this one game for $60, $70 and think they could get away with that and it would be a strong seller. You look at Super Mario 3D All-Stars, it was 3 games slightly enhanced. Now, it was a full-priced game, but it was a 3-in-1, so you can make the argument it was a decent package. If it's just Mario Galaxy 2, I don't think they can get away with just giving it the same level of treatment as those games from 3D All-Stars and it being its own product at a full price. So if we are indeed getting this game next month, I think there are 3 reasonable scenarios here. 1, they're going to release this game at a budget price, which I personally think is the least likely outcome if we're getting it here, because we just got Dragon Drive, a small budget release. Are they really going to do another? No, I would think they would want to put out something that's probably going to have a higher price tag for the month of September. So then the other 2 options, which I think are more likely, we get another collection similar to 3D All-Stars, maybe just a new collection that has Galaxy 2, I think that's an option. But to me, what's the most exciting option is it being its own independent release and it getting a little bit more work than what we saw for the games in 3D All-Stars. And what this would entail would be quality of life updates, enhanced visuals, and perhaps even some new content. So throughout this video, I'm just going to be playing Mario Galaxy 2 footage from Nintendo Wii, well technically Wii U, but pretty much same difference, and this should give you a pretty good idea of how it looked back in the day, and quite clearly you can probably tell that it needs a lot of work. Like, it looks good for a Nintendo Wii game, sure, but in today's day and age where resolution's far sharper and our expectations for visuals are far greater, this game definitely needs more done. Now, Mario Galaxy for 3D All-Stars with its up-res does look a fair bit better, but there can certainly be a lot more done here. They can put in more complex textures, they can update the models, and more. And we've seen Nintendo be ambitious with some of their remasters. Look at Metroid Prime Remastered, look at Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. We've seen Nintendo remaster games where there is actually a pretty significant visual overhaul. If we're just talking about an independent release that's getting remastered, it's not just a simple remaster in most cases, it's more of a complex remaster. The Xenoblade games also come to mind. Most of Nintendo's remasters nowadays are actually fairly ambitious and include some new content in there even. Not all of them, Metroid Prime Remastered didn't, but it was also a budget release. So maybe that's another alternative here. If it doesn't really have much new content, it's a budget release, but not so budget where it's like a $20 price tag, but maybe more like $40 or $50. Regardless, I would at least expect some quality of life updates here. A lot of games where it makes sense to add Switch 2 mouse controls, it should have mouse controls. This is a Wii game after all that did have the cursor, and Yoshi actually played a pretty substantial role. You would see him in several different levels, and in these levels, Yoshi's tongue would be used with the pointer controls. So bringing in the mouse controls to emulate that would probably be a pretty good idea. On the flip side, also motion controls, as it worked for 3D All-Stars as well on Switch with Mario Galaxy, that should be in there too. But what I would like to mention on this, with Switch 2, the Joy-Cons are bigger. They're more comfortable to use. I like them far more than the Switch 1 Joy-Cons, and so it's going to be a nicer experience to actually play with motion controls with the Joy-Cons pointing around there. So I can see Galaxy 2 actually feeling like a more properly optimized experience on Switch 2 as opposed to what we got of Mario Galaxy 1 on Switch 1. Now, some people might be wondering, well, what if I don't have a Switch 2? Well, maybe this game could still come to both platforms. That's certainly possible. It's not like we couldn't have a version of Mario Galaxy 2 on Switch 1. We got Mario Galaxy 1, and so they could do something very similar on Switch 1, and it actually could still look even better than that. For sure. But I asked myself, is this something Nintendo would do? And I'm divided on it because right now Nintendo wants to push Switch 2 as much as possible. If you haven't noticed, Nintendo hasn't really been publishing too many titles for Switch ever since Xenoblade Chronicles came out. There hasn't been anything, actually. Now, Pokemon Legends ZA and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond are coming out later this year, and both these games are still going to come out for Switch 1, but they'll have their Switch 2 editions, which Nintendo is focusing on advertising the Switch 2 editions. But then there is also Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life for Switch 1 coming out next year, so it's not like Nintendo has totally forgotten about Switch 1, but it is pretty clear that Nintendo is focusing most of their efforts on pushing out Switch 2. So something as exciting as a fairly ambitious remaster of Galaxy 2 for Mario's 40th anniversary that's a great opportunity to get more people to want to pick up a Switch 2. On the flip side though, if the big idea with this is to put out an anniversary game where a lot of people are going to want to pick it up regardless, but then also it's going to work as cross-promotion for the movie and then the parks and all that good stuff, maybe it then makes sense to still have it for Switch 1 as well, because a lot of people who may not be ready to pick up a Switch 2 will see the movie advertising and will want to pick up a new Mario game, and if it's only available on Switch 2, then they may not just pick it up. There's kind of a tough argument to be made there. You could also argue, well, if they really want it, maybe they should pick up a Switch 2 then. But a remaster of Galaxy 2, even if I think it could be a more ambitious remaster, I don't think it's going to be so significant of a remaster that it's like, oh, this is only possible on Switch 2. So thinking it through, I'm going to say that it's going to come out for both platforms. But the Switch 2 version will have a higher resolution and it will also have mouse controls. And maybe they'll even use the co-op of Galaxy 2 to advertise game chat or something like that. Like, they could do some little things like that to compel people to want to pick up a Switch 2 over sticking with Switch 1. And on that note, actually, I'll just say that if they want to kind of push game chat for a Galaxy 2 remaster, they could introduce some level of new content that wouldn't necessarily be new levels, but maybe something like Luigi's Balloon World from Super Mario Odyssey, where they introduce some sort of time trials where you can compete with others online, and there are so many different levels where it does measure your time, and so they could just simply add in like time trials or just an online leaderboard amongst everyone playing and your friends, and they could even have game chat and sort of advertise that you can be competing with each other, playing the game at the same time using game chat trying to get the best time. That's something they could do that would offer a little bit more value to Mario Galaxy 2, without going too overboard here with adding a whole bunch of new content to the game, because at the end of the day, this is a remaster, and what we would prefer, or at least what I would prefer, and what I would think most people would prefer, including Nintendo, is to focus most of their efforts on creating Mario content, Mario platformer content, on the eventual, actual brand new 3D Mario made for the Switch 2. But could there be new content? I think so, beyond just what I mentioned. Before getting to that, I would like to focus on just more things they can improve upon for Galaxy 2 overall when it comes to experiencing the game. Like, for example, something I took issue with Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2 because they were made for the Nintendo Wii was very limited camera controls. I would love it if they were to bring in camera controls where it works like most games nowadays, where you can just use your right analog stick to turn it around full 360 degrees and look everywhere as you please. They actually added this feature to Skyward Sword HD, and it was something I really appreciated at the time. So bring it in here to further experience and see all the improved visuals would certainly be a nice improvement. And just another little thing, I would say that some of like the brief, simple cutscenes I think are a little slow. They could speed it up a little bit. I think that would improve the overall flow of gameplay. I also imagine that loading would probably be a little bit faster as well. That's obviously going to be an improvement. And if they were to do everything I just said, this would be a better deal than what they did for Skyward Sword HD. Now the thing with Zelda is that they probably felt like they could have gotten away with it, and they kind of did, although Skyward Sword HD didn't sell as well as other games, like, for example, Link's Awakening Remake. So it does make you wonder why Skyward Sword HD underperformed, maybe because they didn't do enough to that remaster, which was a pretty simple one. And so maybe Nintendo would consider adding some new content here, and if the idea is to include Galaxy 2 because Yoshi plays a significant role, and they want to push Yoshi during his Mario 40th anniversary, especially because of the movie, then maybe they should be adding levels that are more Yoshi-centric. There's already a decent amount of Yoshi levels in Galaxy 2, but I wouldn't complain if they added a little bit more, if they upped that ratio of Yoshi levels in this game. Maybe they could even introduce a whole other new Yoshi form, because Yoshi eats these different fruits and they give him different abilities throughout the campaign, so maybe they can introduce more Yoshi levels and introduce another fruit or two that work differently. And something they could do is kind of go in more of a Bowser's Fury direction, where it's a side campaign that you access separate from the main campaign, and it's its own mini experience there. And what I find interesting about this idea is that this would be more so expanding upon the style of content that is Galaxy 2. Linear levels, a whole bunch of them, quick, you jump into one, and that's what it is. Like, Galaxy 2 became more level-based than even Galaxy 1. They reduced the size of the hub area, and they just made it quicker to access all these different levels. It's kind of the opposite of what we've seen with Mario Odyssey, where it's more of an open adventure, or at least these big open sandbox areas, where you can do different things out of order and sort of explore around as you please. And I'm making this distinction here because perhaps the next brand new 3D Mario is not even that far off. I speculate that we'll see it by the end of next year because historically speaking, we always see that big mainline Mario, if not by the first holiday, the second holiday. And so this Galaxy 2 Remaster, if it does have new content, maybe you don't want to make it something that would be like a Bowser's Fury, where it's like an open world experience, because that might take away a little bit from what we might see with the next 3D Mario, which I imagine will be a more grand, more open experience than even Mario Odyssey. Perhaps more so than even Donkey Kong Bonanza, which we understand is made by at least the Mario Odyssey team, which we would also presume other members of that Odyssey team have been working on 3D Mario these last 8 years or so. Now, some people might see this Galaxy 2 Remaster and think, hey, there's not going to be a new 3D Mario soon, and if Nintendo doesn't say anything, I'm sure people will be concerned about that. I've been theorizing that if there is a Mario 40th anniversary, or I guess we should say even predicting, that they'll probably make some mention of 3D Mario. I don't think we're going to see it in a Mario 40th anniversary direct, but maybe Koizumi, before announcing Galaxy 2, says that they are currently working on it, but in the meanwhile, here's this. A Galaxy 2 Remaster. That's the thinking I've had on how this might all go down. But I don't think the announcement of a Galaxy 2 Remaster would mean a 3D Mario would necessarily be that far away. I mean, we look at what happened this year. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD came out this January, then a few short months later is announced in April, and it comes out in July. We had a 2D Donkey Kong game, then a 3D Donkey Kong game. Or we go back to 2019, in the beginning of the year, we got New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Then, half a year later, we get Mario Maker 2. Two 2D Mario games within 6 months of each other. Or another example, Kirby the Forgotten Land came out back in early 2022, and then, not even a year later, we get the release for Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, a remaster of a 2D Kirby game with new content. So we've seen multiple instances from Nintendo where a remaster can come out within a year of perhaps another bigger release, in some cases even having new content in there. So I don't think the announcement of a Mario Galaxy 2 Remaster, even an ambitious one, would take away from 3D Mario coming out late next year. Of course, we'll see what happens. But what do you think? What do you think a Galaxy 2 Remaster, an ambitious one, would entail? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.